I find that most men that aren't clear on their vision, what they're wanting for themselves, either A, they've simply not taken the time to get clear on it. It does take energy and effort to get clear on what we're committed to in our lives, what we want. Or number two is that maybe you know what you want, but you don't believe it's possible. Brothers, welcome to today's episode of the Porn to Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Sinkovitz. My esteemed colleague, Yaden, is out today at a conference for his real estate business. So you got me today, and we're going to be getting back to our roots a little bit today, brothers, as we dig into the conversation and we revisit the conversation of Porn to Purpose. You know, I started this community back in 2019, and when I originally created the community, the name was Making Peace with Porn. I chose that name because, well, it sounded good, frankly, and it was symbolic of the journey that I was on, making peace with my relationship and my journey with porn, and beginning to be public, beginning to be visible in my journey with pornography, and by doing so, making peace with it in my life. And over a period of time, as my work in the community evolved, this idea of Porn to Purpose began to emerge and pop up for me. And I began to see this path, this correlation, and really see it in my own life and begin to kind of look at it as the path that our men who are going through the boot camp and that I was working with were on. And I began to ultimately see it as a pathway to freedom, this journey from porn to purpose. And what I began to find was that as I moved into greater degrees of purpose and intentionality in my life, it ultimately served me in my journey to freedom, which continues today, which never ends. So I wanted to dig in to that conversation a little bit here today and give you some more insights into that journey, the journey from porn to purpose. So, and what I begin to see is, well, also Porn to Purpose, it sounds good, right? It's a catchy name. The more I live this journey and walk this journey, and the more I move into greater degrees of purpose in my life, and the longer I'm in recovery myself and I navigate this journey in my own walk, the more I begin to see just how like helpful this idea is and how accurate this idea is in my journey. Okay. So I'm going to give you two kind of pieces in the way that I see and I work with purpose in my journey and how I see that purpose plays a role in the recovery journey. Okay. So the first one is what I began to see and so I guess I'll set it up by saying that porn on the front end serves as motivation, impetus, inspiration to move me into my recovery journey, to begin to kind of move me out of pornography addiction, right? And that comes in the form of, and it came in the form for me of recognizing that I was struggling in my journey with porn, recognizing that I was unsuccessful in my own solo attempts, recognizing that I wanted more for myself and I wanted more for my life, and frankly that I was called to more in my life. And I began to feel this call to be more, to live more, to give more. And so this idea of stepping into greater degrees of purpose in my life ultimately called me into my recovery journey, right? I had this vision to serve more, to contribute more, to use my gifts more, right? To create a life of greater freedom, right? To create a life of greater joy. And I was recognizing that porn was inhibiting me in that endeavor, in that desire. So it was very much like my purpose calling me into recovery in the journey from porn to purpose. So that's the first piece that I would offer, is that porn, it's kind of like a purpose. It's kind of like seductive, and it can kind of lure us into our recovery. It can lure us into taking action. It's kind of like a fuel for the fire. It's a fuel for the journey. I would begin to feel this tug, this inspiration, this pull, and I would suggest that that's what probably prompts most men to want to show up to this work. They know that they're called to more. They know that they're called to more in their relationships. They know that they're called to more in their work, in their contribution, in their life experience. And maybe that's what's bringing you here to this conversation today, brother, is the call to more. Maybe you're feeling the call to to live in greater levels of purpose in your own life. Right? So it's like purpose calls us, it beckons us. It calls us forth to step up, to rise, right? Become the men that we're called to be, to live the lives that we're called to live. Right? So that's the first way in which that I see that porn serves a role in this journey. It calls us into our recovery. It calls us up. Okay. And the second piece, kind of like on the back side of this, porn purpose continues, I found, to serve in the recovery journey, because what I find is that as I've stepped into greater degrees of purpose in my life, into greater degrees of intentionality in my life, as I've gone on to create a life by design, as I've gone on to create a life that's more worth living, as I've gone on to create deeper, more beautiful, more meaning relationships, richer life experiences, right? As I've stepped into greater degrees of personal responsibility and leadership, and I've created a more beautiful life around me, I'm naturally incentivized to continue on in my journey. There's a natural sense of responsibility that comes with living in purpose. There's a greater degree of responsibility that comes through leadership, right? So as I step into my work in the world, as I step into leadership, as I serve here in the Porn to Purpose community, as I serve in the Bridge Men's Society, as I serve in my other roles in the world, I also do some chaplaincy work and some other community building work. As I step into this, one, I feel a greater sense of responsibility, and two, I've gone on to create a beautiful, rich life where porn just doesn't cut it anymore. It not only does it not satisfy me, it actually takes from my life. I recognize that it hurts me as I create a richer, deeper, more meaningful, purposeful life, right? I recognize that porn actually takes from that, and it inhibits me from that. And it's massively out of integrity. I've noticed as I stepped into greater degrees of leadership and responsibility, right? I notice it's such a it's drastically incongruent from the life that I want to live, the life that I'm called to live. And there's a natural incentivization to continue on my journey and walk my walk. And I've walked it imperfectly. I've failed. Even as a leader, I've failed. And I've shared that, right? And I've been as public around that as possible. But I continue on today. And today I'm thankful to say that I feel stable and strong in my recovery. And I have a good path. And as I continue on in my work, I notice more and more that this purpose piece serves me so powerfully as I live my rich, full life, which I've got a lot of room to grow still. But as my life grows, as my relationships are richer, my life experience is richer, my sense of joy, of peace, of happiness increases. I notice that serves me. That serves me and also almost stabilizes me and supports me in my recovery, in my sobriety, and in this journey of recovery, moving from porn to purpose. So what's the call to action today here, brother? Like, what's the step for you? What's the takeaway? My offer to you today, brothers, would be like, what does how has purpose served you in your walk? Like, do you feel that call in your life? Or maybe it's that call to greater degrees of purpose in your life that's called you here, maybe to this conversation, to this podcast today. Right? So where are you in this porn to purpose conversation? Maybe you're kind of in that first half. Maybe you're recognizing, like, man, I know that I'm called to more. I know that I'm called to live a greater life, right? I know I'm called to give more. I know I'm called to live in greater degrees of integrity with the man that I'm called to be in the life that I'm called to live. Maybe you're kind of there. Maybe you're already there. Maybe you're already in leadership. Maybe you're already living a rich, beautiful, inspired life, and you're recognizing that porn is holding you back. It's dragging you down. It's massively incongruent for you. My offer to you, brother, would be, especially if you're in kind of that first phase, maybe you haven't taken the time to get clear on what you want for yourself, on where you're committed to going, on the man that you're committed to being, on the life that you're committed to creating. My suggestion, my prompt, my invitation to you, brother, is to begin getting clear on that. Getting clear on what you're committed to. What do you want for yourself? And get clear on the life you're called to live, the life you want to be living, those relationships. Many men come to our community because, like, they recognize that porn is actually keeping them from the true love and intimacy that they're desiring, and porn is just serving as a cheap substitute that never really satisfies. That was a big one for me. And also, yeah, like the call to serve and use my gifts, and I recognize that porn was massively out of integrity for me. So, like, the call to you here today, brother, is, what is calling you forth? What is calling you forth? What are you desiring for yourself and for your life? What can you tap into that can serve as fuel, as motivation, as impetus for you on your journey to begin taking action? I find that most men that aren't clear on their vision, what they're wanting for themselves, either A, they've simply not taken the time to get clear on it. It does take energy and effort to get clear on what we're committed to in our lives, what we want. And number two is that maybe you know what you want, but you don't believe it's possible. And here inside the Liberation Boot Camp and the Porn to Purpose community, that's a big piece of our work. We dig deep on the root relationship with pornography and the skills, right, and the mindsets and the approaches, the tactical pieces that help get to the root of the addiction and begin to shift our relationship with porn and develop the healthy coping mechanisms, etc. The second piece of the puzzle is the purpose piece of the puzzle, where we get super clear on who and what we're committed to being, the lives that we're committed to creating, and we go to work on creating that for ourselves in this journey from porn to purpose. So where do you stand in that? So maybe you're kind of in that first stage. Maybe you're like, hey, I really could tap into a greater sense of purpose in my life. Or maybe you're already there. Maybe you're a father, a husband, a business owner. Maybe you're already in a leadership position. You're like, man, I hear the call, Matt, and I know that I'm called to more. I've tried this on my own and I've been unsuccessful. If you find yourself in either one of those places, maybe you're a father, a husband, maybe you're an impact-driven entrepreneur, I invite you to check out what we have going on here inside the Porn to Purpose community, inside the Liberation Boot Camp, which is our 6-month program. It's the program that I designed based upon my recovery journey. It's the same program that my partner, who's Yaden, who's now a co-owner here inside the community with me, co-community leader, Yaden went through several years ago. All right. The proof of the product, Liberation Boot Camp, the program to help you identify the skills and the tools you need to shift your relationship with porn and get on purpose and fundamentally grow in all the ways that are required for you to really shift your relationship with porn for good and get on to being the man that you're called to be in the life that you're called to create. If that's you, brother, I want to invite you to check out what we have going on inside the Liberation Boot Camp. Go over to porntopurpose.com. Check out the Liberation Boot Camp. Maybe you're ready to go. Over there on the page, there should be an option for you to jump right into the boot camp. Or maybe you're not quite sure and you want to learn more and have a conversation about it. If so, there's an opportunity for you to schedule some time with either Yaden or myself. We'd love to talk with you and have a conversation. Whether you're ready to jump in or not, we'd love to connect with you and support you wherever you are on your journey, and talk about what it would look like for you to actually make the changes, make the shifts in your life that you're desiring, and that you know that you're called to create. I invite you to dream, brothers. I invite you to dream. What else? What else is available to you out there? Brothers, thanks so much for joining us here today. Check us out at porn2purpose.com. If you're not already a member of the Liberation Bootcamp or the Porn to Purpose Facebook group, I invite you to come check out our private community on Facebook. Definitely subscribe to the podcast. We keep fresh content coming out all the time. We love and appreciate you, brothers, and definitely look forward to hearing with you and connecting with you further wherever you are in the world. Peace and power, my brothers. We are noble men. Bye-bye.